Krishna. Somebody can please lead the invocation prayers.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, may I?
Go ahead.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnana Anjana Sadakayi Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Sadadi Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudhapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Sa Shri Rupam Satvajadam Saragana Raghunadam Vidam Tam Sadivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parigana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Ladita Sri Visakam Vidamsa Sri Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopika Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostuti Tapta Kantana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarupatya Kripa Sindhu Bhavya Evasa Patitanam Pavanabhayo Vaishnavhayo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Virinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. So today first I will answer inquiries from previous class and then we will continue with Canto 1, Chapter 13. All right. Question number 1. If Parikshit Maharaj received divine impressions from the womb, how much control do we actually have over our spiritual path? Isn't that destiny over free will? So we have discussed destiny and free will at great length in our Bhagavad Gita study. Destiny is like a weather forecast. You cannot change destiny, meaning the circumstances that you are going to face in your life are destined. You cannot change. What you can change in those circumstances is what action you take using your free will. If the weather forecast is that it will be snow and cold, you can use your free will to go out in the snow and cold without any jacket. The result will be you will be frozen and you will get sick. Rather, you use your free will to go out in the snow with proper jacket, etc. and you will be protected. So we do have free will. Otherwise, scriptures have no meaning because scriptures say do something and don't do something. So Krishna consciousness is the only thing that is not destined. You have to use your free will to endeavor on Krishna consciousness. Does that answer the inquiry? Question number 2. Krishna remained unaffected by the beauty of the queens, yet reciprocated their emotions deeply. Is this contradictory? So Krishna reciprocated with the service of the queens, not with the emotions of the queens. Yes, the emotions are there in the service, but it's more of service that Krishna was attracted. We discussed at great length that when the queens tried to attract Krishna with lusty smiles and gestures, Krishna's transcendental senses were not agitated. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Question number 3. If Krishna can expand into 16,108 forms effortlessly, what's the significance of him returning to Dwarka at all? So here's a question for all of you. All of you try to answer this. If Krishna expanded to 16,108 forms, so when Krishna had to leave Dwarka, or even every day when he has to go to other place within Dwarka, which Krishna went? Everybody, please try to answer.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
So that expansion was there only when Krishna was with his queen. When he comes out of the palaces, he's one
All right.
again.
Okay. Rest of you. Everybody, please try to answer. Which Krishna went from the 16,108 Krishna? We have discussed that these 16,108 Krishna are Swayam, means they are all original forms. They are not like some reflections. They are all Swayam Rupa, original Krishna's forms. Everybody, please answer.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, I think they are one and the same, Prabhu. So in the scriptures we're reading, it says his queens were sad with his leaving, and so were the people. So obviously he was not present there if they were all experiencing his loss or his separation.
I didn't understand what you said. Repeat.
I believe that Lord Krishna, whether just in his oneness or in his expanded forms, is all one. So I don't believe that because they experienced his separation, right? If he had remained there, then the people of Dwaraka and the queens would not experience the separation.
I
So
understand.
he left, then he came back.
Yeah, I understand. What I'm saying is, so first understand that the 16,108 forms are not some reflections. They are all original Swayam Rupa forms of Krishna. So when Krishna had to leave Dwarka from the 16,108 forms, which Krishna left, or even during the day when Krishna has to go for some other activities, which Krishna is going? Everybody, rest of you, please answer. Anybody wants to know?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
All right. So Acharyas have explained that every day when Krishna would leave the palaces for his routine, some other task, all these 16,108 forms of Krishna will merge into one. And end of the day, when Krishna will return, then these Krishna will again expand to 16,108 forms. So we have discussed this in Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, that some activities of Krishna are to show his supremacy. So the question number 3 says, what is the significance of him returning? Well, no, all 16,108 forms merged. And they kept merging and separating every day. Does that answer the inquiry? Everybody satisfied?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu.
Question number 4. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.43 says, cows, brahmana and devotees are object of special attention of the Lord. Why brahmanas as separate entity are part of this list? I was thinking brahmanas in general would mean devotees only. So Bhagavad Gita 18.42 has the qualities of brahmana. Who wants to read 18.42 translation? And let me know if there is bhakti in these qualities of Brahmana. Somebody quickly, 18.42 translation.
Hare Krishna. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work.
Is there bhakti in the list of qualities?
No. But
Okay, rest of you. Is there bhakti? Where is bhakti in Brahmana? So there is no mention of bhakti. Does that mean Brahmana does not have to have bhakti? So understand that there are various categories of Brahmana. All devotees are Brahmanas, but all Brahmanas may not necessarily be devotees. I will repeat this statement. All devotees are Brahmana, but all Brahmana are not necessarily devotees. So in Canto 3, chapter 29, verse 28 onwards, the hierarchy of various living entities are described by Lord Kapil. I'll bring up on screen. And it starts from the bottom and goes upwards as the arrows are pointed. So these are all categories of living entities in the material world. It starts at the bottom from inanimate objects, then living immovable entities, then entities with greater symptoms, then entities with developed consciousness. And then you have these orange blocks on the screen. From these orange, a new category of living entities start. So entities with sense perception. And within that, then there are beings with touch sensation, then taste sensation, then sense of smell, and then beings who can hear, then beings who can distinguish forms, entities with two sets of teeth, beings with many legs, animal with 4 legs. Then comes humans with 2 legs. Within humans, there are somebody in non-varnashram and somebody in varnashram. Then comes Brahmanas. Brahmanas also has categories. The Brahmana who know Veda, somebody who can meaning of Vedas, somebody who can dispel doubt, and Brahmana who follows his duties. Then comes devotees, those who are liberated, and then pure devotees. Does that answer the inquiry about Brahmanas and devotees?
So I don't understand why are the Brahmanas like mentioned as object of affection of Lord if they are not devotees?
So Brahmanas are
In,
also elevated to a certain extent, and Brahmana community is responsible for spreading knowledge. So it is an important task that they have. Understand that Krishna is not only affectionate to devotees. Everybody is his children. But Brahmanas, because they have a particular role which is important to educate everyone, therefore they are also object of affection for Krishna. Abhishek Prabhu and everybody.
thank you, Prabhu.
Nitya.
Prabhu, again, it could refer to Brahmanas in his yuga where they had the Brahmanical qualities, not necessarily to every yuga. It's definitely not applicable.
You are correct. So right now, if you look at in India, specifically in India, the Brahmanas are not really Brahmanas. They are running a business in the name of Brahmanas. And we have discussed at great length in Bhagavad Gita 4.13 and 18.41 that these categories of Brahmana are not by birth, but they are by guna and karma. Krishna says, Chaturvarnyam Maya system guna karma vibhagasa. that Krishna created this division by guna and karma, not by birth. In India right now, is this Brahmana community is all demoniac. They are all using their birthright to claim as Brahmana, even though behind the scene they may be doing all sorts of nonsense, eating tamaku and whatnot, and smoking and whatnot. But they call themselves Brahmana. That is not a Brahmana. Everybody on the same page?
Thank you.
Question number 5. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.9.13, Bhishma says, Kunti suffered because of actions of Pandavas. Please explain how. And also, I am not clear how saying Pandava made Kunti suffer is helping Yudhishthir get over his despondency. Please clarify. We have discussed this in the Bhagavad Gita karma discussion, that there is individual karma and then there is group karma. Therefore, it says that Kunti Maharani suffered because of the actions of Pandavas as part of the group karma. Therefore, if you read Srimad Bhagavatam 1.9.13 at the very last in the purport, last line in the purport says, Kunti Maharani was destined to suffer by providence. Hence, one has to learn to tolerate and not be disturbed. So this is the group karma which was there in the providence, which was there by the providence. And therefore, we have to learn to tolerate and not be disturbed. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes, Prabhu.
Question number 6. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.9.14 says, what is this control of time? How does time force us to do or not do things? What is this forceful aspect of the Lord called Kala? Please elaborate. We have discussed this earlier, that the nature of the time is that time controls and time destroys. In Bhagavad Gita 11.32, Krishna says, time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all. So here's a question for you all. When you make idli batter, you leave the batter outside for a little while for fermentation, and only then the idli comes out very nice. Or when you leave milk outside, milk goes bad. All this fermentation, all this milk going bad, and in the example, this is because of time. So here's a question for you all. Can anyone say how does idli batter ferment, or how does milk go bad? Everybody, please try to answer. Everybody?
It is the chemical reactions happening over a period of time.
All right, time, right? Time. But can anybody say how is time doing it? We got silence.
Prabhu, it's due to the microorganisms that act on a substance over a period of time. So we can't say how time works, but we do know that there is an effect of the bacteria when it goes bad, good and bad. That's how it's the fermentation.
Yeah. Both answers say time. So we cannot know beyond a point. So many of you have seen the Srimad Bhagavatam discussion on primary creation, that time was among the initial item to get manifested so that creation could happen. because three things are required simultaneously at every step of creation process. The three things are Krishna's glance, time, and Mahat Tattva. So this is what the time does. Time, the characteristics of time are time creates, time maintains, and time destroys. Time controls and destroys in the material world. I'll bring up on screen very soon Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29, verses 37 to 45 describes the nature of time, that what all happens due to time. We have also discussed that our brains, our tiny brains, do not have the capacity to understand everything. His Grace Ch13 Das has said in some lectures that the Vedic cosmology described in Srimad Bhagavatam is beyond our comprehension. It is there, right there in Srimad Bhagavatam, but we cannot understand. So if someone like His Grace Ch13 Das, who has studied almost all of the scriptures at great length, is saying that some components of Srimad Bhagavatam are beyond our comprehension, but I think I am smart enough to understand everything, well, this is your ego talking. At the yoga ladder class just yesterday for batch 6 and 7, and for rest of you previously at your respective yoga ladder classes, I have described the size of my ego. The size of my ego makes me think I am bigger than all the infinite material universes combined. So Srila Prabhupada's last lecture in Bhagavad Gita is titled, "What can Mr. Max understand about Bhagavad Gita?" Therefore, to understand scriptures, you have to become a devotee and hear from devotee in devotee association. So just because I am in the material world studying advanced education line like say PhD or medical or engineering or whatever, does not mean you'll be able to understand scriptures by mental speculation. Rather, you will be able to understand scriptures by studying in devotee association, and the important is with devotional intent. If you use your material world mental speculation or your ability to understand material education line, and you try to impose that on studying scriptures, it's not possible. So I want somebody to read Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse number 28, and in the purport, paragraph number 4, which starts the words idam viditva. 8.28, purport, paragraph number 4. Somebody quick.
Hare Krishna, I can read.
Yeah, go ahead, Adhish.
The words idam viditva indicate that one should understand the instructions given by Sri Krishna in this chapter and the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. One should try to understand these chapters not by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing them in association with devotees. Chapters 7 through 12 are the essence of Bhagavad Gita.
Right, so what did Prabhupada say? One should try to understand these chapters not by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing in association of devotees. So don't get me wrong. It is very good inquisitiveness you all have. All I am trying to say is don't get stuck that I should be able to understand everything. No, it is not possible. We have also discussed this in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. We heard from His Grace Ch13 Das that when you study scriptures, categorize these scriptural study in 4 categories. That some you will understand right away, some you will understand with little deliberation, some You will understand after a lot of purification, and some you will never be able to understand. So in the next slide, I will show Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29, verses 37 to 45, which are the characteristics of time. So this slide is prepared by Shalini. I'm just showing. So I request Dara to please read from the screen the characteristics of time.
Hare Krishna. 1. Causes transformation of various material manifestations. 2. Time is another form of Supreme Lord. Anyone who does not know this is afraid of time. 3. Time is the shelter of everyone. 4. Time enters everyone's heart. 5. Time is the master of all masters. 6. Time causes every being to be annihilated by another. 7. Time holds no one dear. No one is an enemy, no one is a friend. 8. Time gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him and destroys those who have forgotten him. 9. All demigods controlling nature perform their respective functions. 10. All trees and creepers produce fruits and flowers. 11. Rivers flow, oceans do not overflow, fire burns, and earth does not sink, all due to fear of time. 12. Sky provides space and accommodates all planets because of time. 13. Universal body expands with its 7 coverings because of time. 14. Guna avatars carry out creation, maintenance, and destruction. 15. Time is unchanging. 16. Time is without beginning but causes everyone's birth. 17. Time is without end but causes everyone's end. 18. Time dissolves the universe by destroying even the Lord of Death, Yamraj. Hare Krishna.
Does that answer the inquiry about time?
Yes, Prabhuji.
All right. Question number 7. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.9.15. Why Arjuna is also called as Krishna? So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 10.37, of the Pandavas, I am Arjuna, meaning the will of Arjuna is the same as the will of Krishna. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes.
Question number 8 from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.9.18 purport. Please explain by his external energetic expansion, Lord incarnates himself in the material world. So the question is, isn't he coming via his internal energy and not the external energy? The answer is, vibhutis in the material world are also one of the category of incarnation. Vibhutis means all the zillions of beautiful things in the material world that we get attracted to are coming from a spark of Krishna. Plus, the Acharya spiritual masters are sent by Krishna to reclaim the fallen souls. That's what it says by his external energetic expansion. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Question number 9 from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.42. Please explain the analogy in the purport. It says, seeing in darkness is not seeing, but seeing by light of the sun means to see sun and everything else unseen in darkness. This is the way of devotional service. Very good. All these inquiries are very good inquisitiveness that you are all reading with rapt attention and with required details rather than just reading for the sake of reading. The answer is, in darkness, one can see little bit with a torch. But when the sun rises, everything is clearly visible, including the sun. Similarly, by devotional service, we see Krishna as the sun, as well as we see all the jivas as parts and parcels of Krishna. And this is possible only by devotional service. Therefore, the statement says, this is the way of devotional service. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
Question number 10. What does it mean when it is said that death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months? So if the next life is a human form of life for the soul, there is generally a waiting period around 7 months, because the soul comes into the father's body through the food stuff that the father consumes. Therefore, there is this waiting period. If the next life is the animal life for the soul, then generally the soul immediately or within a very short time starts the process of the next life. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes, thank you.
Last question for today. Maharaj Ikshvaku, one of the sons of Vaveshta Manu, he had 100 sons. He prohibited meat eating. Question is, does this imply that meat eating was practiced in previous yugas? So upcoming spiritual endeavor for batch 6 and 7 devotees for Bhagavad Gita 8.17 verse is that during the 12-hour day of Brahmaji, there are 1000 cycles of 4 yugas of Satyug, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga and Kali Yuga. And soon in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, chapters 17 and 18, we'll discuss that spirituality dwindles by 25% in each yuga. So the degree of negativity will be different in each of the yugas, but each yuga is faulty because material world is faulty. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Yes, thank you.
All right. I will bring up on screen striking points. You have 3 slides. This is slide number 1. Slide number 2. And slide number 3. Any questions, comments, realizations before we continue with Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13? Mind Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, just want to understand one thing. So, from the history, what we know about different yugas and the activities happened in different yugas. So, you mentioned like 12 hour is 1000 of 4 yugas. So the same activities are repeated again and again and again.
You are absolutely correct. I'm pretty sure one day archaeologists will find in their archaeological dig, they will find cell phones and satellites from billions of years ago. So you are correct that everything is just repeating. All these cell phones, all this technology, internet, nothing is new. It's just been uncovered again. But everything in the material world has already been existing from before. Fine, Prabhu. Nitya.
Prabhu, in the sequence of the yugas, Satyuga, then Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga, always that way, or only when Lord Krishna appeared, there was the switch of Dwapara and Treta?
So Dwarpa. Dwa in Dwarpa means two, and Tre in Treta means three. So the yugas used to be, first yuga was Satyug, second was Dwarpa Yug, third was Treta Yug, and fourth was Kal Yug. The cycle of the yugas in which Krishna appeared is when the two yugas of Dwarpa and Treta interchanged their position, that Dwarpa Yuga became the third yuga instead of second, and Treta Yuga became the second yuga instead of third, just to show the significance of appearance of Krishna, as well as because of the weight of Krishna coming down to the material world. Nitya?
Thank you, Prabhu. So unless Lord Krishna appears, then the sequence would be Satyuga, Dwarpa, Treta, and Kali.
It used to be like this, and it changed from the time Krishna appeared. What happens in subsequent creation, that's a different story. Probably they will go back to Satyug, Dwarpa Yug, Treta, and Kali Yug, provided there is subsequent creation.
Thank you.
All right. So you had some questions to answer from previous class. Somebody wants to attempt them. Everybody should try to attempt.
Probably may I try the first question?
Yeah.
The relationship between the Krishna and the queens in Dwaraka, that was question.
So that was not the question from last class. That was from the previous class.
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
The question was about water poured on root automatically enlivens the leaves. Similarly, Yudhishthir was constantly engaged in service of the Lord. Somebody else can try?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Mind Prabhu.
Water poured on a root automatically enlivens the leaves. Similarly, Yudhishthira was constantly engaged in service of the Lord. Chapter 12, verse 4. So, Yudhishthira didn't chase power, he served Lord Krishna, the root of all existence. And just like watering the root feeds every leaf, his devotion uplifted every soul in his kingdom. Humans, animals, even plants thrived under his care because he ruled with spiritual intelligence, not ego. He had no selfish desires. His only ambition was to please the Lord. By serving Lord Krishna, he naturally became the perfect king for everyone.
All right, very good. Next question. Somebody.
Should I? Okay. Should I go ahead?
Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Okay. Association with fire makes an object hot. Similarly, association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead makes one qualifies like the Lord. Chapter 12, verse 24. Association with Lord Krishna transformed Parikshit Maharaj into a ruler almost as divine as the Lord himself. Like metal heated by fire, he absorbed godly qualities through constant connection with Lord Krishna. He became as generous as Rantideva and as righteous as Yayati. His greatness came not from birth but from following Krishna's path. Spiritual association shapes character far beyond ordinary influence.
All right, very good. Okay. We will continue with Canto 1, Chapter 13 now. Thank you for endeavoring on the inquiries, on the questions as well. So the recap of where we are. In Canto 1, Chapter 12, we discussed that Parikshit Maharaj's situation in the womb and following samskaras such as Garbhadan samskar, it has astrologically influence on the child. Therefore, child with good qualities is born. Yudhishthir consulted with Brahmanas, heard about the good qualities of Parikshit Maharaj, and he distributed charities. Yudhishthir worshipped the Supreme Lord by performing horse sacrifice. Krishna stayed for few more days in Hastinapur, and then he left for Dwarka. And this time Arjuna also goes with Krishna to Dwarka. We'll soon understand why Arjuna is going with Krishna. So previously, sages had asked the question to hear about the birth of Parikshit Maharaj because they are interested to give rise to Krishna Katha. Now, before Parikshit Maharaj's activities are described, such as Parikshit Maharaj chastising Kali, in chapters 13, 14, and 15, the below topics are described. First, Vidura's arrival to Hastinapur. Then second, Dhritarashtra leaving the body following Ashtanga Yoga and achieving perfection based on the instruction of Vidura. The third is Arjuna's return to Hastinapur from Dwarka, and he brings the difficult message of Krishna's disappearance. And the fourth is the departure of Pandavas in a timely manner. So chapter 13 has the arrival of Vidura to Hastinapur. So just a little history as to what had happened, that where is Vidura coming back from. So you have on the screen, in the background, you have Dhritarashtra sitting on the throne, and this Duryodhana is chastising Vidura, and Vidura is leaving the palace, leaving his bow and arrow at the doorstep. We'll understand this, why Vidura leaves the bow and arrow in Canto 3. Some of you have attended those classes, you know the answer. So what had happened was that when Krishna had come as Shantidut before the war, and Duryodhana tried to arrest Krishna, after that Dhritarashtra was disturbed, and Dhritarashtra called Vidura for advice, Vidura being the minister, chief minister. So Vidura's advice are very well-known verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1. I think it's verse 12 and around that, 3 verses. These verses are known as Vidur Niti. They are very well-known verses in politics. While Vidura was speaking those 3 verses, Duryodhana comes into the chamber where Vidura is speaking those verses to Dhritarashtra. And Duryodhana becomes angry because Vidura is giving the advice that Duryodhana should be thrown out of the kingdom because he has enmity against Krishna and Pandavas. So Duryodhana became angry, and he actually threw out Vidura and said that Vidura should leave the palace and he should not be allowed to take anything except his breathing ability. So Vidura goes on to pilgrimage, meets Maitreya Muni, meets Uddhava, gets a lot of self-realization, which is all discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3 at great length. And after all that pilgrimage, visit, and meeting with Maitreya Muni and Uddhava, he is coming back to Hastinapur. And that's what is described here in this chapter 13. So chapter 13 is titled Dhritarashtra Quits Home. It's divided into 4 parts. Part 1 is verses 1 to 16. Vidura's return to Hastinapur. Part 2 is verses 17 to 37. Vidura's instruction to Dhritarashtra, and Dhritarashtra, Gandhari and Vidura leave home. Part 3 is verses 38 to 50. Narad Muni instructs Yudhishthir and hints that Lord's pastime may come to an end. Part 4 is verses 51 to 60. Narad Muni explains that Dhritarashtra will give up his body by mystic yoga.
Prabhuji, sorry, could you please repeat reading parts?
All right. Part 1 is verses 1 to 16. Vidura's return to Hastinapur. Part 2 is verses 17 to 37. Vidura instructs Dhritarashtra, and Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, Vidura leave home. Part 3 is verses 38 to 50. Narad Muni instructs Yudhishthir and hints that Lord's pastime may come to an end. Part 4, verses 51 to 60. Narad Muni explains that Dhritarashtra will give up his body by mystic yoga. Shivangi.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So the background that I described about Vidura, with the incident of Duryodhan throwing out Vidura, Vidura is teaching me a lesson. That Duryodhan was acting under Mahamaya. If Vidura also responded in similar fashion, then Vidura would also be under Mahamaya. Rather, Vidura acted under Yog Maya, meaning just because a person is acting under Mahamaya does not mean I also have to act under Mahamaya. Vidura used this incident, this opportunity to leave the palace and get away from the war. If Vidura did not leave, then Vidura would have had to be on the side of Adharmi Duryodhan. Duryodhan is born as an Amsha of Kali, and Duryodhan is responsible for all the destruction, and Vidura, who is Yamraj himself, one of the 12 Mahajan, would have had to fight on the Adharmi Duryodhan side and against Krishna. Therefore, Vidura took the opportunity to act under Yog Maya and go to pilgrimage. The other learning for me is that this is the way to apply aversion to fault finding. That instead of looking at the negative side of what Duryodhan did, what Vidura is teaching us is that look at the positive side of how Yog Maya is helping you in the situation. When you are able to see both sides, that when you see that the other person is acting under Mahamaya and you are also able to see that how Yog Maya is helping you, that's when you are a pure devotee. If you are only able to see any one of the side, the one side will most likely be that the other person is acting under Mahamaya, which of course is an elevated vision, but you are not a pure devotee. Only when you are able to see how Yog Maya is helping you in the situation, then you are a pure devotee. This is what Vidura understood, that Yog Maya is helping Vidura to get out of the war and not have to fight on the side of Adharmi Duryodhan and against Krishna. So Vidura goes to pilgrimage, then to Dwarka. At Dwarka, Vidura inquired from Uddhava whether the Lord left any instructions for Vidura. So this is described in Canto 3 that Uddhava passed on the message to Vidura that what the Lord specifically left a message for Vidura, that Lord wants Vidura to get the knowledge from Maitreya Muni. When Lord had spoken Srimad Bhagavatam to Uddhava, Maitreya Muni and Uddhava both heard directly from the Lord. So it is described at great length that when Uddhava heard this direct instruction of the Lord from Uddhava, meaning Vidura heard, sorry, I'll repeat. When Vidura heard the instructions of the Lord from Uddhava, that at the very last moment of Lord leaving this material world and wrapping his pastime, Lord remembered Vidura. For this, Vidura cried very loudly in ecstasy that the Lord remembered Vidura at the very last moment when Lord is about to wrap up his pastime from this material world. Everybody with me with all this background discussion, questions, comments, realizations? Shivangi, verse 1 translation.
Text 1. Hare Krishna. Sri Sutta Goswami said, while traveling on a pilgrimage, Vidura received knowledge of the destination of the self from the great sage Maitreya and then returned to Hastinapura. He became as well versed in the subject as he desired.
So in the purport has the history of who Vidura is, which I have briefly described, that who Vidura is, that Vidura is Yamraj himself. And how did Vidura come to material world? Anybody knows? Anybody wants to explain? Okay, let me explain. So what had happened? So this was the plan of the Lord, that Vidura as Yamraj wanted to be part of Lord's pastime and serve the Lord. Yamraj desired to preach the glories of the Lord, but Yamraj is very busy to punish the conditioned soul because there are more wrongdoers in the material world than righteous men. Therefore, Yamraj is very busy. Therefore, Lord arranged this incident that one of the Muni, his name is Manduka Muni, he was being punished by Yamraj. And Manduka Muni asked, why am I getting punished? So Yamraj opened his book of sins, and he said that you as a child pierced some tiny insect with a pin or thorn or something. So Manduka Muni became angry. He said, I'm a child, I'm innocent, I'm just playing, and you are trying to punish me for my innocent act. And therefore Manduka Muni goes on to curse Yamraj that you will take birth on earth as a Shudra. I mean, this was just an incident created so that Yamraj could come take birth on earth during the time when Lord is on earth, so that Yamraj could be part of Lord's pastime and serve the Lord. So Yamraj took birth as Vidura. So Vidura is actually Yamraj. He just appeared during the time to serve the Lord. Everybody on the same page, Shivangi?
Is how Kunti Maharani had the boon to have the demigods as the fathers of her sons. Who is Yudhishthira's father? Is it Yamaraj?
It's Dharmaraj.
Who's Dharmaraj?
Yeah, Dharmaraj and Yamraj are one and the same.
So Vidura is Yudhishthira's father?
So understand that Vidura is in that embodied body. That is not the father. It's the original Yamraj when Vidura was Yamraj, not when Vidura is Vidura. The soul is the same, but not the Vidur. Vidura is not in the embodied body as Vidura. That's not the father. It's the Dharmaraj or Yamraj is the father.
Okay.
Very good. Everybody on the same page? All right. Mayank Prabhu, verse 2 translation.
Hare Krishna. After asking various questions and becoming established in the transcendental loving service of Lord Krishna, Vidura retired from putting questions to Maitri Muni.
So Vidura's devotion to Govinda was awakened. Therefore, Vidura did not speak any further questions. And upon hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Vidura remembered that his brother Dhritarashtra is suffering, and that Dhritarashtra should also get this knowledge to get perfection. This means that Vidura has understood the knowledge perfectly. Therefore, Vidura wants to share this knowledge with his suffering brother. So this is the nature of a devotee and all the preachers. So many of you also go out on preaching endeavors, and this is exactly what Vidura has taught us to do. So many of the upcoming verses are very straightforward verses. We'll just run through some of them very quickly. Matan Prabhu, verses 3 to 7 translations.
Hare Krishna. When they saw Vidura return to the palace, all the inhabitants, Maharaja Yudhishthira, his younger brothers, Dhritarashtra, Satyahi, Sanjaya, Krivacharya, Kundi, Kandari, Draupadi, Swatra, Uttara, Kripi, many other wives of the Kauravas and other ladies with children all hurried to him in great delight. It is so appeared that they had regained their consciousness after a long period. Text 5. With great delight, they all approached him as if life had returned to their bodies. They exchanged obeisances and welcomed each other with embraces. Verse 6. Due to anxiety and long separation, they all cried out of affection. King Yudhishthira then arranged to offer sitting accommodation and a reception. Text 7. After Vidura ate sumptuously and took sufficient rest, he was comfortably seated. Then the king began to speak to him, and all who were present there listened.
Okay, straightforward verses. Malti, verses 8, 9, 10 translations.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I won't be able to read today.
All right, Chandran Prabhu, 8, 9, 10.
Verse 8. Hare Krishna. Maharaja Yudhishthira said, "My uncle, do you remember how you always protected us, along with our mother, from all sorts of calamities? Your partiality, like the wings of a bird, saved us from poisoning and arson." Text 9. While traveling on the surface of the earth, how did you maintain your livelihood? At which holy places and pilgrimage sites did you render service? Text 10. My Lord, devotees like you, like your good self, are verily holy places personified, because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart. You turn all places into places of pilgrimage. Hare Krishna.
So Vidura is a great devotee of the Lord, and devotees travel to pilgrimage not to benefit themselves. Rather, they go to pilgrimage to purify the places of pilgrimage. There is no need for the pure devotees to go to pilgrimage for themselves because they are already pure. But the pure devotees go to pilgrimage to purify the places of pilgrimage. This is the potency of the pure devotees. Gauri, verse 11, 12 translations.
Hare Krishna. My uncle, verse 11, my uncle, you must have visited Dwarka. In that holy place are our friends and well-wishers, the descendants of Yadu, who are always wrapped in the service of Lord Krishna. You may have seen them or heard about them. Are they living happily in their abodes? Verse 12. Thus being questioned by Maharaj Yudhishthir, Mahatma Vidur gradually described everything he had personally experienced, except news of the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty.
So Yudhishthir asked about Dwarkavasis. Are they living happily? Vidura described everything except the death of Yadus, because Vidura did not want to bring grief to the loving family members. Krishna leaving the planet will not be happy news for the Pandavas. Therefore, Vidura did not disclose this unpalatable news. Because calamities come at their own accord, we should not speak unpalatable truth to cause distress to others. And this is described in the next verse, number 13. Divya, verses 13 to 17 translations.
Hare Krishna, verse 13. Compassionate Mahatma Vidura could not stand to see the Pandavas distressed at any time. Therefore, he did not disclose this unpalatable and unbearable incident, because calamities come of their own accord. Text 14. The Mahatma Vidura, being treated just like a godly person by his kinsmen, remained there for a certain period just to rectify the mentality of his eldest brother, and in this way bring happiness to all others. Text 15. As long as Vidura played the part of a Shudra, being cursed by Manduka Muni, Yama officiated at the post of Yamaraja to punish those who committed sinful acts. Text 16. Having won his kingdom and observed the birth of one grandson competent to continue the noble tradition of his family, Maharaja Yudhishthira reigned peacefully and enjoyed uncommon opulence in cooperation with his younger brothers, who were all expert administrators to the common people. Text 17. Insurmountable eternal time imperceptibly overcomes those who are too much attached to family affairs and are always engrossed in their thought.
So for our next set of verses, here's a question for all of you. Very important questions for all of you to answer and think about. That as we read through these verses of Vidura preaching Dhritarashtra, not preaching, rather Vidura is chastising Dhritarashtra very, very badly. So we will read that Vidura's strong chastising words penetrated through the heart of Dhritarashtra and changed Dhritarashtra. And therefore, Dhritarashtra goes on to leave the body using Ashtanga Yoga and attaining perfection. So here's a question for all of you. When you preach, can you preach in such chastising manner that the way Vidura is chastising Dhritarashtra? Should you chastise? Or under what circumstances can you chastise? So very important. This is a very important discussion. All of you are preachers. Very important to understand how and what to preach and how and what not to preach. We'll have this conversation in this chapter as we discuss this next set of verses. And I will be devil's advocate for answers of both sides. The second question for all of you is that Vidura is a Shudra. Is Vidura competent to become an Acharya? Anybody wants to answer that? The second question right now.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
So even though Vidura was born in a Shudra, from a Shudra mother, but his qualifications were always of a Mahatma. So, like as per Bhagavad Gita, that should be taken in consideration. So his role was not of a Shudra.
All right. So yes, one point is correct that that he is actually Yamraj and one of the 12 Mahajan. That is correct. But it's still in this body he is a Shudra. So can a Shudra be a Acharya? Okay. So the answer is that because Vidura was thoroughly educated in transcendental knowledge by Maitreya Muni, and Maitreya Muni was educated by Lord himself directly, therefore, Vidura was quite competent to occupy the post of an Acharya, even though he is a Shudra. And of course, the second point, Vidura is Yamraj. That is one of the 12 Mahajans that Abhishek Prabhu properly described. That Vidura is on the level of an exalted personality like Brahmaji, Narad Muni, Shiva, Prahlad, etc. So according to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, anyone conversant with transcendental knowledge of the science of God, whether he is Brahmana, Shudra, householder, sannyasi, everyone is eligible to become a spiritual master as long as he is conversant in the transcendental knowledge of the science of God. Questions, comments, realizations? All right. Abhishek Prabhu, verse 18, translation and purport, faster pace, has very strong words.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sorry. Verse 18. Translation. Mahatma Vidura knew all this, and therefore he addressed Dhritarashtra, saying, My dear king, please get out of here immediately. Do not delay. Just see how fear has overtaken you. Purport. Cruel that cares for none, be he Dhritarashtra or even Maharaj Yudhishthir. Therefore, spiritual instruction, as was given to old Dhritarashtra, was equally applicable to younger Maharaj Yudhishthir. As a matter of fact, everyone in the royal palace, including the king and his brother and mother, was raptly attending the lectures. But it was known to Vidura that his instructions were especially meant for Dhritarashtra, who was too materialistic. The word Rajan is especially addressed to Dhritarashtra significantly. Dhritarashtra was the eldest son of his father, and therefore, according to the law, he was to be installed on the throne of Hastinapur. But because he was blind from birth, he was disqualified from his rightful claim. But he could not forget the bereavement, and his disappointment was somewhat compensated after the death of Pandu, his younger brother. His younger brother left behind him some minor children, and Dhritarashtra became the natural guardian of them. But at heart, he wanted to become the factual king and hand the kingdom over to his own sons, headed by Duryodhana. With all these imperial ambitions, Dhritarashtra wanted to become a king, and he contrived all sorts of intrigues in consultation with his brother-in-law Shakuni. But everything failed by the will of the Lord, and at the last stage, even after losing everything, men and money, he wanted to remain as king, being the eldest uncle of Maharaj Yudhishthir. Maharaj Yudhishthir, as a matter of duty, maintained Dhritarashtra in royal honor, and Dhritarashtra was happily passing away his numbered days in the illusion of being a king or the royal uncle of King Yudhishthir. Vidura, as a saint and as a duty-bound, affectionate younger brother of Dhritarashtra, wanted to awaken Dhritarashtra from his slumber of disease and old age. Vidura therefore sarcastically addressed Dhritarashtra as the king, which was actually not. Everyone is the servant of eternal time, and therefore no one can be king in this material world. King means the person who can order. The celebrated English king wanted to order time and tide, but the time and tide refused to obey his order. Therefore, one is a false king in the material world, and Dhritarashtra was particularly reminded of this false position and of the factual fearful happenings which had already approached him at that time. Vidura asked him to get out immediately if he wanted to be saved from the fearful situation which was approaching him fast. He did not ask Maharaj Yudhishthir in that way because he knew that a king like Maharaj Yudhishthir is aware of all the fearful situations of this flimsy world and would take care of himself in due course, even though Vidura might not be present.
All right. So it's just a start of Vidura trying to preach to Dhritarashtra, and his strong chastising words will continue in the upcoming verses also. Dhara, verse 19, translation, purport, faster pace, and 20 translation also.
Verse 19, translation. This frightful situation cannot be remedied by any person in this material world. My Lord, it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as eternal time, Kal, that has approached us all. Purport. There is no superior power which can check the cruel hands of death. No one wants to die, however acute the source of bodily sufferings may be. Even in the days of so-called scientific advancement of knowledge, there is no remedial measure either for old age or for death. Old age is the notice of the arrival of death served by cruel time, and no one can refuse to accept either summon calls or the supreme judgment of eternal time. This is explained before Dhritarashtra because he might ask Vidur to find out some remedial measure for the imminent fearful situation as he had ordered many times before. Before ordering, however, Vidur informed Dhritarashtra that there was no remedial measure by anyone or from any source in this material world. And because there is no such thing in the material world, death is identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as it is said by the Lord himself in the Bhagavad Gita 10.34. Death cannot be checked by anyone or from any source within this material world. Hiranyakashipu wanted to be immortal and underwent a severe type of penance by which the whole universe trembled and Brahma himself approached him to dissuade Hiranyakashipu from such a severe type of penance. Hiranyakashipu asked Brahma to award him the blessings of immortality, but Brahma said that he himself was subject to death, even in the topmost planet. So how could he award him the benediction of immortality? So there is death even in the topmost planet of this universe. And what to speak of other planets which are far, far inferior in quality to Brahmalok, the residing planet of Brahma. Wherever there is the influence of eternal time, there is this set of tribulations, namely birth, disease, old age, and death, and all of them are invincible.
So Vidura is using strong words and trying to preach to Dhritarashtra to get out of the palace. And soon you will read in the upcoming verses also. So from verses 21 to 28, you can identify points that are applicable to me, that when you are preaching, how to awaken the mood of renunciation in me and in others. Nitya, 21 translation.
Yes, Prabhu. Your father, brother, well-wishers, and sons are all dead and passed away. You yourself have expended the major portion of your life. Your body is now overtaken by invalidity, and you're living in the home of another.
So instead of living a degraded life, it says, see the influence of time based on past experience. Therefore, seek protection of the Lord. Nitya, 22 also.
Yes, Prabhu. You have been blind from your very birth, and recently you have become hard of hearing. Your memory is shortened and your intelligence is disturbed. Your teeth are loose, your liver is defective, and you're coughing up mucus.
So the signs of the dwindling material body are described, the stages that the body goes through. That and Jiva forgets their permanent identity as the eternal servant of the Lord and becomes foolishly active in the impermanent bodily occupations. And Vidura is pointing out the real situation of life, the symptoms of old age. Abhishek Prabhu, 23 translation.
Hare Krishna. 23.
Correct.
23 text. Alas, how powerful are the hopes of a living being to continue his life? Verily, you are living just like a household dog and are eating the remnants of food given by Bhima.
Very, very strong words to use for anybody. He says to Dhritarashtra that you are living like a household dog. Very strong word to say to anybody. And Dhritarashtra was a king. And then Vidura says you are eating the remnants of food given by Bhima. So question is, why did Vidura specifically mention Bhima in his criticism to Dhritarashtra? Anybody can think of the reason why Bhima?
Bhima killed Duryodhana.
Very good, correct. So Bhima killed Duryodhan, Dushasan, and few other children of Dhritarashtra, and Duryodhan and Dushasan being very loving to him, or very much Dhritarashtra was very much attached. So sadhu has to speak naked truth of life and not flatter king to live comfortably at their cost. Sadhu is meant to awaken blind persons I can imagine how responsible task is entrusted to sadhus like Vidura. Bhima is specifically mentioned because he killed Dhritarashtra's two dear sons Duryodhana and Dushasan, so as to cut Dhritarashtra's attachment of living precarious life in material existence like a dog, even at the risk of humiliation. The hopes of living being to continue life is very powerful. We all are so attached to living life in this temporary body. Therefore, strong words of sadhus are required to cut up the attachment from body and from material world. Dhara 24 translation.
Text 24. There is no need to live a degraded life and subsist on the charity of those whom you tried to kill by arson and poisoning. You also insulted their married wife and usurped their kingdom and wealth.
So, Dhritarashtra tried to do all sorts of wrong things to Pandavas, and now Dhritarashtra is living in their palace. And Vidura is pointing out, what exactly are you doing there? Divya, 25 translation and purport, faster pace.
Hare Krishna, 25 translation. Despite your willingness to die and your desire to live, even at the
Unwillingness.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Despite your unwillingness to die and your desire to live even at the cost of honor and prestige, your miserly body will certainly dwindle and deteriorate like an old garment. The word purport. The words Kripanasya Jivi Saha are significant. These are two classes of men. One is called the Kripana and the other is called the Brahmana. The Kripana or the miserly man has no estimation of his material body, but the Brahmana has a true estimation of himself and the material body. The Kripana, having a wrong estimation of his material body, wants to enjoy sense gratification with his utmost strength, and even in old age when he wants to become a young man by medical treatment or otherwise. Dhritarashtra is addressed herein as a Kripana because without any estimation of his material body, he wants to live at any cost. Vidura is trying to open his eyes to see that he cannot live more than his term and that he must prepare for death. Since death is inevitable, why should he accept such a humiliating position for living? It is better to take the right path, even at the risk of death. Human life is meant for finishing all kinds of miseries of material existence, and life should be so regulated that one can achieve the desired goal. Dhritarashtra, due to his wrong conception of life, had already spoiled 80% of his achieved energy, so it behooved him to utilize the remaining days of his miserly life for the ultimate good. Such a life is called miserly because one cannot properly utilize the assets of the human form of life. Only by good luck does such a miserly man meet a self-realized soul like Vidura, and by his instruction gets rid of the nescience of material existence.
So Srila Prabhupada saying that human life is meant to finish all kinds of miseries. Life has to be so regulated to achieve the desired goal. So question becomes, how can one bring end of miseries in human life? The answer is, we are attached to comforts and we don't want miseries. According to Acharyas, as long as body is there, painful situation will come. But who is qualified to attain the goal is one who can tolerate. Therefore, if you know the art of tolerating, means you are progressing to liberation. Thus, you will be able to end the miseries of human life. Understand that nothing can help me in this world to become comfortable. By will of the Lord, everything will come to end. Therefore, make permanent solution of becoming more Krishna consciousness. rather than trying to be attached in this temporary world. This is the real mood of renunciation. Not that like Dhritarashtra, that his sons are dead and he's living in the house of enemy. Therefore, to be cautious, read scriptures, follow the practices well beforehand, well before death comes. Plan your life properly. This planning is very important. This leads to the next verse, which explains the difference between Dhira and Narottama. Shivangi, 26 translation, purport, faster pace, and then 27, 28 translations also.
Krishna, text 26 translation. He is called undisturbed who goes to an unknown remote place and freed from all obligations, quits his material body when it has become useless. Purport. Narottama Das Thakura, a great devotee and Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava sect, has sung, "My Lord, I have simply wasted my life. Having obtained the human body, I have neglected to worship your lordship, and therefore I have willingly drunk poison." In other words, the human body is especially meant for cultivating knowledge of devotional service to the Lord, without which life becomes full of anxieties and miserable conditions. Therefore, one who has spoiled his life without such cultural activities is advised to leave home without knowledge of friends and relatives, and, being thus freed from all obligations of family, society, country, etc., give up the body at some unknown destination so that others may not know where and how he has met his death. Dhira means one who is not disturbed even when there is sufficient provocation. One cannot give up a comfortable life, family life, due to his affectionate relation with wife and children. Self-realization is obstructed by such undue affection for family, and if anyone is at all able to forget such a relation, he is called undisturbed or dhira. This is, however, the path of renunciation based on a frustrated life. But stabilization of such renunciation is possible only by association with bona fide saints and self-realized souls, by which one can be engaged in the loving devotional service of the Lord. Sincere surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is possible by awakening the transcendental sense of service. This is made possible by association with pure devotees of the Lord. Dhritarashtra was lucky enough to have a brother whose very association was a source of liberation for his frustrated life. Text 27 translation. He is certainly a first-class man who awakens and understands, either by himself or from others, the falsity and misery of this material world, and thus leaves home and depends fully on the personality of Godhead residing within his heart. Text 28. Please therefore leave for the north immediately without letting your relatives know, for soon that time will approach which will diminish the good qualities of men. Text 29. Thus, okay.
So the difference between Dhira and Narottama, which is described in verse 28. Dhira means one who is not disturbed even when there is sufficient provocation. Dhira is one who is not disturbed by being away from family association. One can compensate life of frustration by becoming a dhira, meaning you leave home for good without communicating with relatives. And Narottama, or first-class human being, means to be completely dependent on the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. If one cannot become a Narottama, at least try to become a Dhira initially. Persistent endeavoring on line of self-realization helps one to rise to the stage of Narottama from the stage of Dhira. So Dhira is the preparatory stage for sannyas, and sannyas is the preparatory stage for Paramhamsa, or first grade devotee of the Lord. Therefore, have a plan in life so as to spend more time in Krishna conscious activities. So this will come up in upcoming discussion, that as a grahastha, make a joint plan with your spouse to surrender to Krishna. And this will come up in upcoming discussion in chapters, that the day you get married, that's the day you make your plan about retirement and training your children and handing it over to your children so that you can spend time more and more on Krishna consciousness. On the day you get married, I'm pretty sure none of us do that. At least I have not. So to become a Narottama is by making a plan that you do more services. And then sometimes the plan becomes hazy. Therefore, understand what is your limit. So a couple of classes back, Abhishek Prabhu was also asking, can we say no? No, understand your limit. When you try to do more and more services, and you also have to read scriptures, you have to do sadhana, you have to take care of your health, and all the plan becomes hazy. Therefore, have a plan, know your limit, how much you can take, and execute accordingly. That what is my main goal? My main goal is to go back to Godhead. Therefore, take help from scriptures, from acharyas, from senior devotees. Make a plan and live your life according to a plan. And preaching has to be done, but not at sacrificing your own Krishna consciousness. So if you keep taking on services and you end up having health being spoiled or your sadhana is not up to level, well, you are sacrificing your own Krishna consciousness. Therefore, your Krishna consciousness is important, and a verse will come up very soon to specify or to support this statement also. Everybody on the same page?
Prabhu, I have a follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
So, if we have a plan, but there are so many times the plan goes astray, right? And there's so many things we cannot control, but we can continue to do what we can in the situation we can for as long as we can.
Yeah, the plan goes upside down because your plan is material more. And material world, something or the other thing is going to break. If you keep making the plan with Krishna conscious as the center and depending on the Lord, then you have greater chance of succeeding. If you keep trying to have success in the material world, well, your plan is bound to fail. Nitya.
Yes, Prabhu. Make the plan God-centric, and that would probably be more easier to.
So finally, these strong words pierced through Dhritarashtra, and then Dhritarashtra left the palace. Gauri, verses 29 to 34 translations.
Verse 29. Thus, Maharaj Dhritarashtra, the scion of the family of Ajamedha, finally convinced by introspective knowledge, Prajna, broke at once the strong network of familial affection by his resolute determination. Thus he immediately left home to set out on the path of liberation as directed by his younger brother Vidura. Verse 30. The gentle and chaste Gandhari, who was the daughter of King Subala of Gandhar or Gandhara, followed her husband, seeing that he was going to the Himalaya mountains, which are the delight of those who have accepted the staff of the renounced order, like fighters who have accepted a good lashing from the enemy. 31 as well?
Up to 34.
Maharaj Yudhishthir, whose enemy was never born, performed his daily morning duties by praying, offering fire sacrifice to the sun god, and offering obeisances, grains, cows, land, and gold to the Brahmanas. He then entered the palace to pay respects to the elderly. However, he could not find his uncles or aunt, the daughter of King Subala. Text 32. Maharaj Yudhishthir, full of anxiety, turned to Sanjay, who was sitting there, and said, "O Sanjay, where is our uncle who is blind, who is old and blind?" Text 33. Where is my well-wisher uncle Vidura and mother Gandhari, who is very afflicted due to all her sons' demise? My uncle Dhritarashtra was also very mortified due to the death of all his sons and grandsons. Undoubtedly, I am very ungrateful. Did he therefore take my offenses very seriously and, along with his wife, drown himself in the Ganges? Text 34. When my father Pandu fell down and we were small children, these two uncles gave us protection from all kinds of calamities. They were always our good well wishers. Alas, where have they gone from here?
So, this is the nature of the devotee, that Yudhishthir and devotee always think that he is always at fault and does not see fault of others. So just visualize that how attached Dhritarashtra was and how strong words Vidura used to break this strong attachment of Dhritarashtra, that he left the palace in the middle of the night without telling anybody. So coming back to the question, that as we read through these verses where Vidura is chastising Dhritarashtra with really strong words that penetrated to the heart of Dhritarashtra and changed Dhritarashtra. So here's a question for you all, which we started before reading these verses. When you preach, can you preach in such chastising manner? Should you chastise? Everybody, please try to answer quickly.
No, Prabhu, we have to be gentle at all times. We cannot chastise others.
But isn't Vidura, who's teaching us something, isn't he chastising?
Prabhu, knowing the background, Vidura being Yamaraj, the Mahajan, he was highly qualified. But as the preachers, we cannot chastise. We have to be gentle. We have to be humble. That's austerity of speech, right? We can't.
The rest of you quickly answer, please.
But to get the message across, sometimes we have to use harsh words.
All right, very good. I got two different answers. Everybody, please answer. Can you chastise?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, it depends on to whom we are preaching.
All right, very good. Rest of you quickly answer. Can you chastise? How Vidura used so strong words like you are living like a dog, living on the remnants of Bhima, and mucus is coming out, old age and teeth are breaking down. Can you chastise like this?
I feel it is not necessary, Prabhuji. Chastising is not required.
All right. So why is Vidura chastising? Rest of you did not answer. Quickly, please. Okay, I got silence from rest of you. So many of you said we should not chastise, but here we see that Vidura is chastising. So question becomes, under what circumstances can you chastise? Everybody?
To put them in the right path.
What do
Make
you
them,
do?
yeah, make them become, do the right thing.
That's when you chastise?
Yeah, for Krishna purpose of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, so Matan Prabhu, next time you go on book distribution, can you use the strong words like what Vidura is using?
It depends on because he's a brother, so he can do it. His own brother.
Okay, very good. Okay, so understand this point very, very nicely, because you all are preachers, that when you can chastise and when you cannot chastise. So generally, you should not chastise. You have to use palatable language. We have discussed this in 17.15, that you should not agitate. Not agitating others is higher than speaking truthful words. Normally, when we go out on preaching, we don't have any relation with anybody. Therefore, you cannot chastise. You have to use easy to understand language from the scriptures and in a pleasing manner, so as to convince them to come to Krishna consciousness. And when you have a relation with somebody, like Vidura has a relation with Dhritarashtra, as Matan Prabhu correctly pointed out, and some of a few others also correctly pointed out, that's when you can chastise, and that's when the words will penetrate through the heart. Exactly, it penetrated through Dhritarashtra. Otherwise, if you chastise somebody without relation, you may have the good intent, but your words will not penetrate, but they will break the other person and they will go away from Krishna consciousness. So what's the point of preaching? I will give you a practical example. One time, one devotee from India was visiting here in the Toronto temple, and he was trying to preach and distribute books to somebody at the temple. And he was literally chastising those newcomers. And I had to intervene, and I stopped him, even though I'm not qualified, but he was literally chastising that newcomer, thinking that he was doing something good. So I just intervened and I calmed down the situation, and then I took this devotee who was visiting from India, and I said, no, you cannot chastise newcomers. You have to use pleasing language. Yes, your intent is right, but they are not ready to hear the truth that you have to say. So you have to start from basic and bring them up step by step by step. He was literally chastising them, something similar to what Vidura was chastising Dhritarashtra. Not exactly the same words, but very close. So we have to be very careful in our preaching. Our goal is to bring ordinary people closer to Krishna using pleasing language, and even pleasing body language, not just the actual language. Body language should also be pleasing, and that one should feel comfortable to approach you. Only when you have relation, close relation, as Dhritarashtra has close relation with Vidura, only then you can speak strong words and the strong words will penetrate. Nitya has a question.
Prabhu, I'm finding it difficult to accept relation, who we have relations. I think we should still adopt the same thing. I think Vidura's example here is very different because he's Mahajan, he's qualified. But I think we have to still always be gentle. Harsh words only take three people away from, Krishna consciousness or whatever we're trying to tell them.
Yeah, you are correct that we have to always start with using pleasing language. So when you have a close relation with somebody where you know that even if you use harsh words, the other person is not going to take the harsh words wrongly, that's when you can use harsh words. It is what I am describing. I'm not saying that use harsh words with every single relative. No, start with pleasing words, and you have to judge what is your relation with that person and whether that other person will take the harsh words properly or not. You have to judge and use the harsh words accordingly. But Nitya, you are correct. Most of the time, you have to be using pleasing language.
Thank you, Prabhu. I think kindness goes a long way, gentle and kindness and everything else. So maybe we just keep on trying before we get used to harsh words.
Yeah, you are correct. It's just that you understand that Srimad Bhagavatam has extreme examples. That Dhritarashtra's attachment was so extreme, and the principle of sadhu using strong words is being described in this situation, that Vidura as a sadhu is using strong words to cut up the attachment. We have discussed this we have heard Prabhupada lecture from chapter 6, one of my favorite, like 6.4, one of my favorite lecture, where we have heard the short extract where Prabhupada says, sadhu must use strong words to cut up attachment, just as when a doctor is trying to do an operation, He doesn't cut open the patient like he's applying butter. No, he cuts open very harsh. The doctor is not trying to hurt the patient. The doctor is trying to cure the patient. Similarly, sadhu is using strong words not to hurt, but to cut up the bodily attachment. That's what Vidura did here. All right. Chandran Prabhu, 35 to 37 translations.
Hare Krishna. Text 35. Sutta Goswami said, because of compassion and mental agitation, Sanjaya, not having seen his own master, Dhritarashtra, was aggrieved and could not properly reply to Maharaja Yudhishthira. Text 36. First, he slowly pacified his mind by intelligence, and wiping away his tears and thinking of the feet of his master, Dhritarashtra, he began to reply to Maharaja Yudhishthira. Text 37. Sanjaya said, my dear descendant of the Kuru dynasty, I have no information of the determination of your two uncles and Gandhari. O king, I have been cheated by those Greek souls. Text 38. While Sanjaya was thus...
Hold on. So Yudhishthira is inquiring, and at this time, Narad Muni arrives at this place. So rest of the chapter, we'll try to finish at a faster pace and try to end this chapter today. We'll let Shivangi read the verses at a faster pace. So at this time, Narad Muni arrives and gives instruction to Yudhishthira. Shivangi, 38 to 46 translations, faster pace. Shivangi, unmute.
Me, Prabhuji?
Yeah, Shivangi, 38 to 46, faster pace.
Sorry. Translation and purport?
Translations only.
Okay. 38th translation. While Sanjaya was thus speaking, Sri Narada, the powerful devotee of the Lord, appeared on the scene carrying his tumburu. Maharaja Yudhishthira and his brothers received him properly by getting up from their seats and offering obeisances. Text 39. Maharaja Yudhishthira said, O godly personality, I do not know where my two uncles have gone, nor can I find my ascetic aunt, who is grief-stricken by the loss of all her sons. Text 40. You are like a captain of a ship in a great ocean, and you can direct us to our destination. Thus addressed, the godly personality, Devarishi Narada, greatest of the philosopher devotees, began to speak. Hare Krishna.
Up to 46, faster pace.
41. Sri Narada said, O pious king, do not lament for anyone, for everyone is under the control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, all living beings and their leaders carry on worship to be well protected. It is he only who brings them together and disperses them. As a cow bound through the nose by a long rope is conditioned, so also are human beings bound by different Vedic injunctions and are conditioned to obey the orders of the Supreme. As a player who sets up and disperses his playthings according to his own sweet will, so the supreme will of the Lord brings men together and separates them. O king, in all circumstances, whether you consider the soul to be an eternal principle or the material body to be perishable, or everything to exist in the impersonal absolute truth, or everything to be an inexplicable combination of matter and spirit, feelings of separation are due only to illusory affection and nothing more. Therefore, you give up your anxiety due to ignorance of the self. You are now thinking of how they who are helpless, poor creatures will exist without you. Text 46. This gross material body made of 5 elements is already under the control of eternal time, kala, action, karma, and the modes of material nature, guna. How then can it, being already in the jaws of the serpent, protect others?
Text number 46 is important. We have discussed this before also, that when we ourselves are under the control of kala, karma, and guna, how can we protect somebody else? So Yudhishthir asked Narad Muni, tell me where they are so that I can go and help them. And Narad Muni says, I am not going to tell you, even though Narad Muni knows, but Narad Muni says, I'm not going to tell you because you need to understand few things here. And Narad Muni explains that to Yudhishthir that you are not taking care of Dhritarashtra. Everyone is under the control of the Supreme Lord. And verse number 43 also we have discussed earlier that we all have this attachment to our friends and family. And I have given this example that when you are on a river bank, you see some tree branches that they break, they come together and they disperse. Is exactly explained in verse number 43 that by the supreme will of the Lord, men come together and they separate, but we get attached. So we don't need to get attached. We just need to realize that we are not in control of anybody. We are not able to help anybody. We just have to do our best. Does not mean we don't help anybody. Does not mean we say, oh, this is your karma. No, we don't use those language. Instead of using karma, we say, what is our dharma? We try what is possible for us and rest we leave it on the Lord. All right. Matan Prabhu, faster pace, 47, 48, 49.
Hare Krishna. 47. Those who are devoid of hands are prey for those who have hands. Those devoid of legs are prey for four-legged. The weak are the subsistence of the strong, and the general rule holds that one living being is food for another. 48. Therefore, O king, you should look to the Supreme Lord only, who is one without a second, and who manifests himself by different energies, and is both within and without. 49. That Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, in the guise of all devouring time, Kala Rupa, has now descended to the earth to eliminate the envious from the world.
So verse number 47 is a very famous verse. It says Jiva Jivas Jivanam, that materialist people use this verse and say that Srimad Bhagavatam allows to eat meat. That verse says that one is food for the other jiva. So you have to understand what Narad Muni is saying before and after this verse. That entire world is under the control of the Supreme Lord. Everywhere there is death. No one is out of the jaws of death. Death is inevitable. One is food for the other is one point, but human form is meant for self-realization. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada says that we eat what is offered to the Lord. Jivas Jivanam says that all are under the control of the Supreme Lord and no one can escape death. That same Supreme Lord, the Creator, the Father, He has appeared just to eradicate those who are against the will of the Lord. Now He has appeared in Dwarka and no one can escape death. Therefore, surrender to Him in human form. Is this surrender possible and to attain the self-realization? Not that the Jivas Jivanam mean to allow to eat meat. Therefore, you have to see before and after to see the connecting link instead of using it as a standalone verse. Verse number 50 is again an important and a connecting link verse where Narad Muni is going to hint to Yudhishthir that Krishna's pastime on earth are about to end. Divya, verse number 50 translation.
Hare Krishna, text 50 translation. The Lord has already performed his duties to help the demigods, and he is awaiting the rest. You Pandavas may wait as long as the Lord is here on earth.
So Yudhishthir will remember this instruction, this verse, very soon when Arjuna will return from Dwarka. Next verses are straightforward. Dhara will be reading. In the next verses, what you have on screen is what Narad Muni will describe, that Yudhishthir should not go where Dhritarashtra and Gandhari are, because by the time Yudhishthir reaches that place, Dhritarashtra will leave his body by Ashtanga Yoga. You can see how Dhritarashtra uses Ashtanga Yoga to burn up his body, and that Gandhari will also follow Dhritarashtra. And then Vidura also leaves and returns back to his position as Yamraja. So these 51 to 60 are straightforward verses describing what I just described. Dhara, 51 to 60 translations.
Text 51. O king, your uncle Dhritarashtra, his brother Vidur, and his wife Gandhari have gone to the southern side of the Himalaya mountains, where there are shelters for the great sages. 52. The place is called Saptasrota, divided by 7, because there the waters of the sacred Ganges were divided into 7 branches. This was done for the satisfaction of the 7 great rishis. Text 53. On the banks of Saptasrota, Dhritarashtra is now engaged in beginning Ashtanga Yoga by bathing 3 times daily in the morning, noon, and evening, by performing the Agnihotra sacrifice with fire, and by drinking only water. This helps one control the mind and the senses and frees one completely from thoughts of familial affection. 54. One who has controlled the sitting postures, the yogic asanas, and the breathing process can turn the senses toward the absolute personality of Godhead, and thus become immune to the contaminations of the modes of material nature, namely mundane goodness, passion, and ignorance. 55. Dhritarashtra will have to amalgamate his pure identity with intelligence, and then merge into the Supreme Being with knowledge of his qualitative oneness as a living entity with the Supreme Brahman. Being freed from the blocked sky, he will have to rise to the spiritual sky. 56. He will have to suspend all the actions of the senses, even from the outside, and will have to be impervious to interactions of the senses, which are influenced by the modes of material nature. After renouncing all material duties, he must become immovably established beyond all sources of hindrances on the path. 57. O king, he will quit his body, most probably on the 5th day from today, and his body will turn to ashes. 58. While outside observing her husband, who will burn in the fire of mystic power along with his thatched cottage, his chaste wife will enter the fire with rapt attention. 59. Vidur, being affected with delight and grief, will then leave that place of sacred pilgrimage. 60. Having spoken thus, the great sage Narad, along with his Veena, ascended into outer space. Yudhishthir kept his instruction in his heart, and so was able to get rid of all lamentations.
Very good. So Dhritarashtra did achieve perfection using Ashtanga Yoga, but because of his offenses to Pandavas, the pure devotees, he did not achieve the highest perfection, and therefore it's very important not to do offenses. Questions, comments, realizations? Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 13th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Dhritarashtra Quits Home. Homework questions, write down quickly. We are just about to finish it. It's almost 9 o'clock here in Toronto. Question number 1. Explain the difference between Dhira and Narottama. Comes from verses 26 to 28. Second is an analogy. As a cow bound through the nose by a long rope is conditioned, so also human beings are bound by different Vedic injunctions and are conditioned to obey the orders of the Supreme. Comes from verse number 42. And for next class, read Canto 1, Chapter 14. All right, we are just past 9 o'clock here in Toronto. We'll stop here. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.